Dragon's Dogma is a phenomenal experience that I would recommend to any lover of RPGs or fantasy games, but admittedly it has a bit of a steep learning curve in the beginning. There are a lot of systems and things that the game doesn't explain well or downright never tells you, but that ends today. In this video, we're going to explore 10 tips and tricks that I wish I knew before playing Dragon's Dogma. So buckle up, grab some iced coffee, and let's dive into the world of Gransys.
What in places?
Number 1. How to make fast travel a bit easier. Traversing the map in Dragon's Dogma can be a bit of a drag at times. You can easily spend 5 to 10 minutes walking to a destination without much to do along the way. The good news is we can use Ferrystones to fast travel to select points on the map. The bad news is these are single-use consumable items that can be a pain to find. However, if you're playing the Dark Arisen version of the game, you can actually get your hands on the Eternal Ferrystone, which can be used infinitely to fast travel anytime you wish. To obtain this item, simply visit the inn in Gransys, select Manage Equipment, and withdraw. You'll find the Eternal Ferrystone in the Tools section of your inventory. There are also a bunch of armor sets and other useful items that the game just gives you but never tells you about, so be sure to search through this inventory at your earliest convenience. In the beginning of the game, you'll only be able to travel to Gransys and Casardis, but later on you can fast travel to any location where you have placed a port crystal. There are only 4 or 5 of them that you can discover throughout the game, and if you're wondering where to put them, I have a couple of suggestions. I usually like to place one near the entrance to Witchwood, since there are a few quests we need to complete there. The entrance to Blue Moon Tower is also good, since that location is way the out of the way, and you'll need to go there at least twice. Another good spot is in the northern part of the map near Hillfigure Knoll, since a lot of quests will send you to that general area. You can move these crystals at any time by simply picking them up and then placing them at another location. They can be particularly useful for escort quests too, and you may want to keep a spare crystal in your inventory or at the inn. So where do you find port crystals? Most of them will be found in locations you visit during the main story. There is one in the basement prison of the Shadow Fort, one in the cave where you meet the Dragon Forged, one at the top of Blue Moon Tower where you fight the Griffin, and one in the passage below the Witch's House where you fight the Metal Golem in Celine's side quest. You can also buy one for 200,000 gold from the Black Cat Forger vendor in Gransys. Number 2. How to make a lot of money right at the beginning of Dragon's Dogma. Purchasing gear at the blacksmith is one of the best ways to increase your combat power in the early and mid-game of Dragon's Dogma, but you can quickly run out of funds if you're trying out multiple vocations, upgrading gear, and buying everything you need. Thankfully, there's an item you can sell right at the beginning of the game to make over 300,000 gold. The item is called the Ruminator's Monocle, and you can obtain it by visiting any inn and withdrawing it from storage, just like we did with the Eternal Ferrystone. I'm pretty sure the devs gave us this item strictly to sell and give us a head start, considering the item description emphasizes the lack of combat value. An eyepiece with no special properties to speak of, other than lending its wearer an intellectual quality. Number 3. You can fail side quests by progressing the main story. In my first playthrough of Dragon's Dogma, I missed out on at least a half a dozen side quests because a number of these missions have a hidden timer and will automatically fail or become unavailable when you progress the main story past a certain point. The first one is a quest called Lost and Found, where the village chief asks us to track down that hot chick we lock eyes with at the beginning of the game. If you don't want to fail this mission, be sure to complete it before going into the Everfall for Barnaby in Gransys. This is definitely an important side quest to complete, as it is a prerequisite for a lot of other side quests we can unlock later in the game. A lot of players have trouble getting to the Witchwood early in the game because there are a few high-level bandits on the road over there. So if you're struggling to defeat those bandits, another tip is to just run past them. You can always fight them another day, no sense beating your head against a wall unless you like the challenge. This tip really applies to any mob or enemy in the open world. If you're getting killed in a couple of hits, you're probably not ready for the fight, so you can always come back and fight later. But that's a little bit of a tangent. We were talking about failable side quests. So yeah, if you're stressed about missing out on content, I've put a link to a Steam guide that shows how you can complete all the side quests in a single playthrough without missing anything. There are a few quests that are way off the beaten path. Beware spoilers in the guide though. Number 4. You should change your vocation once you've maxed one out. Dragon's Dogma has one of my favorite class systems in any RPG I've played. Whenever you swap to a new vocation, you keep any progress you've made on previous classes, including passive augments. So in order to min-max your character, it's a good idea to change to another vocation once you've maxed one out. That way you can continue building progress on your overall character and unlock new skills and augments. It's also just fun to test out other playstyles and classes. Pretty much every vocation in this game can become overpowered, and there's a lot of fun ways to approach combat, so don't be afraid to switch things up. You can always switch back to any previous vocations later with no loss of progress. Number 5. Don't forget to forge items at the Black Cat. In Gran Soren, there's a vendor called the Black Cat, and your pawns will mention that the owner can create forgeries. I didn't really know what this was used for initially, so I kinda just ignore it and forgot about it for a while. But creating forgeries is incredibly useful. You can duplicate pretty much anything in the game, including quest items and rare upgrade materials. Just be aware that forgeries of most magical items will not retain their effect. For instance, you cannot create forgeries of Wakestone shards since the duplicates are useless. Some good candidates for creating forgeries are the Worm King's Ring, which you'll need to obtain for the main quest, any idols you obtain for merchants, and any rare upgrade materials that you need to upgrade your equipment to 3 stars. In one side quest, I was even able to finesse a couple of NPCs by making a copy of a letter and giving it to both characters to obtain both quest rewards. So yeah, don't sleep on forgeries. Number 6, your beloved. As I mentioned in my review, Dragon's Dogma kind of has romance, but it's implemented in a really scuffed way. All NPCs in the game have approval ratings based on the things you say and do to them. The game will track this and then automatically assign one of the highest rated NPCs as your beloved, which will essentially be treated as the protagonist's love interest during some cutscenes near the end of the game and in the epilogue. And while you cannot directly choose your beloved, you can influence the outcome. The best way to do this is to obtain the Arisen's Bond, a ring that you'll earn as a quest reward during a major side quest. You can Google a quest guide, just search Arisen's Bond Dragon's Dogma, and you'll find what you need. Gifting this item to an NPC will max out their affinity, which increases the likelihood that the game will recognize them as your beloved. Now, I've heard conflicting reports on what this does. A lot of people think the Arisen's Bond guarantees your beloved choice, but according to the Dragon's Dogma wiki, this is not the case. Gifting the Arisen's Bond just maxes out a character's affinity, so if there are multiple NPCs at maximum affinity, the game may choose a different character as your beloved. Like I said, romance is scuffed as in this game. So if you want more details on how the beloved mechanics work in Dragon's Dogma, I've put links in the description. Interestingly, you can create a forgery of the Arisen's Bond ring at the Black Cat, which is helpful if you don't feel like completing the side quest chain every time you do New Game Plus. Number 7, always overstock on stamina items. A lot of the bosses in this game are extremely tanky, and until you start getting your hands on endgame gear that can shred boss HP bars, you're going to be running out of stamina frequently as you spam your abilities. So it's extremely important to keep a good stock of stamina regenerating supplies in your inventory, such as mushrooms and Harspud potions. If you're worried about getting over encumbered, you can transfer these items to one of your pawns, since you can always transfer them back to your main character in the middle of combat. And one tip for PC players, you can actually hotkey some consumable items so that you can use them on the fly without going into your menu. To do this, go into your inventory, click on the item you want to hotkey, and then press the hotkey you want to use for that item. You can use 1 through 5. You'll notice the number appear on the icon. Talk about things I really wish I knew earlier. Shout out to my viewer Zonzo Avaloon for pointing this out to me. Number 8. Don't miss out on Madeleine's quest. Early in Act 1, you can gain access to one of the best merchants in the base game, but it's easy to miss her if you're not paying attention. After defeating the Hydra for the first time, instead of going straight to Gran Soren, travel back to the starting town of Casardis and visit the inn. There you can find Madeleine, a blonde merchant lady who asks to be escorted to the nearby encampment. Completing this quest will unlock her as a merchant later in Gran Soren, where she moves into an abandoned house. If you increase her affinity, she can get you access to better gear earlier than the main blacksmith in Gran Soren. Plus, she's hot, at least by Dragon's Dogma 2011 graphical standards, so there's that too. Number 9. Tips for the Shadow Fort quest. This is a tip for one of the main story quests in the Worm Hunt. You'll be tasked with retaking the Shadow Fort from a group of goblins. The nearby troops will send you in first and ask to open up the gate so they can join you in the fight. I highly recommend taking out the 2 giant trolls or ogres or whatever they are before opening up the gate, because otherwise there's a decent chance the soldiers will get their asses kicked and end up retreating before you finish the fight. It's not the biggest deal in the world whether you retake the fort or not, since you'll still complete the quest regardless, just a little embarrassing to fail the objective for one of your first assignments with Maximilian. Number 10. Bitter Black Isle XP Boost Ring. This next tip requires a glitch exploit, and it can kind of break the intended progression of your character, so I'll leave it up to you if you want to partake in this. But there is a ring you can obtain on Bitter Black Isle, which grants a 50% XP boost, which is great for power leveling vocations and getting new abilities faster. To obtain this ring, visit the docks of Casardis at night, and speak to the woman to go to Bitter Black Isle. Follow the paths through the first dungeon, and run past all the enemies until you reach the exit to the courtyard. It's recommended that you do not bring along any pawns for the next part. After reaching the courtyard, head down the stairs and go to the door on the left side of the courtyard. Pick up a barrel and place it next to the door. Then pick up another barrel and walk forward against the door. You should pass right through and glitch onto the other side. Then simply open up the chest and you've got the ring. The reason you don't want to bring any pawns here is that they may break the barrels you need to pass through the door. So you can either dismiss them in advance, toss them off a cliff, or just roll the dice and hope they don't break the barrels. In any case, once you have the ring, you can either glitch back through the door using the same barrel, or use the lift stone to teleport back to the entrance of BBI. So there you have it. 10 things I wish I knew before playing Dragon's Dogma. Are there any tips I missed out on that you would recommend? Let me know in the comments section below. If you liked this video, be sure to subscribe to Big Dan Gaming for more RPG videos and guides. Big shout out to all the channel members for supporting my content. Until next time, this has been Big Dan. I should go.